All right, everybody, welcome to Live from My Drum Room. Today I have a very, very special episode with an even more special guest, a drummer and composer, and a great musician that's been a huge influence on me and on, I'm sure, everybody watching right now. And I'm so honored to welcome with me here today the great Mr. K, Manu Katche.
Hello.
All right. Hello, Manu.
How are you,
Uh,
John?
I'm very well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm okay. I'm fine.
Great, great. A lot of people watching. I'm so excited about this. I've been so looking forward to this. Um, I've been listening to your music for so many years, and I'm when we became friends some 20 odd years ago, it was such a thrill for me to connect with you the way we did, and I've just in the last you know couple of months as we've been leading up to talking about doing this today, I've been digging back into all your great recordings, and it's just been so inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Lots of great questions from the audience. I have some things I want to talk to you about too. So um, we'll just jump right in if that's okay.
Hey, yeah, please.
Okay, great. And again, you're looking fantastic. You look great, just the way I remember.
When we spend time in Paris together, remember?
Yes, I remember that. That was a fun time. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, the music is obviously keeping you young and fit and
And you too, John.
oh, thank thank you. Thank you.
Maybe it's a drummer thing. Who
I think it
knows?
might, yeah, I think it is. I think it's a drummer thing. Absolutely. And so now you started off on piano, right? You drums were not your first instrument.
Yeah, when I was 7 years old, classical piano in with a private teacher in France, where I was born, and then I've done that for 3 to 4 years. Then I stopped, and I wanted to be running as an athlete, but I couldn't do it because I had a sickness, big sickness with my heart and everything else. So my mom said, "There's no way to do it, so let's keep doing some music." And I said, "Okay, I'm interested in drums." When I was around 14. And then I went to the School of Music around my area in my neighborhood, and it was a classical, you know, conservatory.
Hmm.
And I went there and actually it was classical percussion. And I hooked up with that teacher, which is like phenomenal. It's amazing man. And I learned the classical percussion up till going to the big school in Paris with this, like it's a big concept, like the Juilliard School
Hmm.
in the States. And of course, I went there for like a couple of years. And then when I finished that, in parallel, I was doing a few conscious classical timpanis mainly, which means for some drummers who know me, I always got my thumb on the
Hmm.
top of the stick, not on the side, not the classic way which I learned, but that grip with my thumb on the top, like a timpani player. And finally, I discovered jazz, I discovered pop and rock, and I thought, that's nice. I mean, maybe I could play drums. So my approach to the drums just by myself, I just put all the rudiments that I learned in the classical school music on the drums. That's how I developed my way of playing the drums.
That makes a lot of sense in terms of how you play. Your drum parts are compositions. I mean, the way you create these parts that are very classical sounding. Where they're just very layered and textured and
Yeah.
it's
So some producers sometimes say it's a bit busy.
no, no, I don't think any drummer watching right now would ever say that. It's just but
It's
I know
it
it's just it must be that way with you with some producers. They just
you
yeah,
know
I
they just
yeah.
want a simple groove, and of course I could do it, but I mean the fundament, I mean, the foundation are coming from the classical music. It's not a drum kit in classical music. It's called a tricotti. And tricotti means you have like toms, bass drum, snare, temple block, wood block, chimes, lot of stuff around. And of course, everything is written down, on a chart,
Hmm.
and you play everything. So that means like it's like, as you said, composition, you mixed everything. So when you approach the drums, tricoté in classical music, the approach is very different because it's a lot of different instruments and tones, which
Yes.
means when I went onto a regular drum kit, I thought, oh, I like I'm tuning my toms, like if I was playing timpanis. And then I use the splashes because it reminds me like little splashes in the classical music. We didn't have big crashes, etc., which make the whole thing for me conscious of I'm putting it together like if it was written somewhere.
Yes. Yeah. And that again, that makes perfect sense when you listen to your drum parts and how you construct them. They are just that way. And so you started off playing sessions in France and Paris, probably most
Yeah,
likely. It was
I was was in a suburb of Paris, and then I started doing the session player when I was 19. And I reached a good level of professional, like, which means like I could live out of my sessioning. I mean, I could make a
Mhm.
living out of music, which was great. And I did a lot of singers, different singers, and then I hooked up with someone that I liked more better than others, that I went on tour with them. And I've done that from 81 until 86.
I see. And was 86 when you started working? That's Peter Gabriel.
Exactly. So you know the story,
Yeah.
maybe people are interested. I was doing some sessions for a French singer. She plays violin as well. So she was in a rock area, and she was, pretty hit commercial singer. And she always used Tony Levin as a bass player for the recording sessions.
Hmm.
And the drummer, and of course I forgot his name, is playing on Flesh with the Sly and the Family Stone. What's his name? Andy
Oh,
Newmark.
Andy Newmark. Sure. Yeah.
So that was the rhythm section. And that time the arranger proposed to her, her name is Catherine, why don't you use Manu? Because Manu is playing with you live. Why don't you use him in studio? And she said, no, I'm not interested. I'd rather have Andy and Tony because they're familiar to my music. They know how to play together, blah, blah, blah. But the arranger insisted because he said, I did some sessions with Manu. He's got a good sound, he's got a good approach to the drums. That could be nice for your next album, etc. And then finally she accepted it. So I did the sessions with Tony. That was the first time I met Tony Levin. And for the story, we finished the sessions. Tony goes back to Woodstock, where he lived at the time.
Hmm.
And then he's with Peter Gabriel already. And Peter wanted to change from Jerry Marotta to a different drummer. And of course, when you want to change drummer, you ask the best player. Same if you want to change bass player as the drummer. And he asked Tony, so Tony, what do you think? I mean, I'd like to use a different drummer for the next album. And what do you think about Steve Gadd? Because Tony and Steve were going to
Of
school
course.
together. So then they know each other for years. And Tony said, yeah, but I don't think Steve would fit your music. And actually, I met a little guy, African guy from his father's side, lives in France, reads music, plays rock. Maybe you could use him. That's the whole story. So
Wow.
86, I go to not Real World, because I was not Real World yet in England. It was Bath in his studio, produced by Daniel Lanois. Tony Levin, David Sanchez, David Rhodes, and I start, no audition, just start playing Don't Give Up. First track that I did on that session.
Wow. Wow.
That was
And
it,
you, yeah, and that was you obviously you had never met Peter. You were
right?
familiar with his background, but
Of course.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Wow. And I've been thinking about this menu, and that was 1985, 86.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you have any thought and I'm thinking I know the answer to this already, but that 40 years later, you
Mm.
would still be collaborating with him, that this relationship, this collaboration would last this long.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
amazing. Yeah.
I'm pleased because, and that's what I say most of the time. When you hooked up with such an artist, you feel very lucky and very privileged. That's what I felt at the time, especially me coming from France, hitting the rest of the world. That was a big, big, big thing for me. But I didn't realize, I mean, I was just doing what I could do, the best that I could go, and that was it. And I met, of course, John, and I mean, tons of different artists. But the thing I always say is many drummers could have done I mean, of course, different from what I've done on this solo album because I was the first one abroad. But they could have go their own way with their, own approach, own style,
Mhm.
etc. I've done it. I was, as I said, I was privileged, but the relation is much more important than just the playing. I've noticed, and I could talk about this today. At the time, yes, I'm a good drummer, but once again, 100 of amazing drummers on this planet could have done it. But then the relation, the way you are, the sense of humor, your reaction, your ethic, your philosophy, etc. It makes
Yeah.
the whole thing. And then finally, when you spend time with people on the road for years, or you spend time for months in studio, it's very important that having this relationship. And I've noticed with Peter and with Sting, because it's been years as well, we're
Yes.
still friends. Even if I don't work much with Sting, when it comes to Paris, when we meet up in the south of France, we go to a restaurant, I go to his gig, of course, but then we talk about kids, family, the
Hmm.
world, it's, everything. And that's what I'm the most proud about is being able with not being an Englishman at first time or American, being from coming from this culture, French culture, being able to just hooked up with people from a different culture and just have a great relation for years.
Yeah. That,
Because
yeah.
humanly, it brings you, I think, the food for your playing.
Yes. Yeah. I would agree. I would agree. And I think your humanity comes through in your playing. I think you play with so much joy. There's so much joy and just your natural playing. And listening to a bunch of different tracks over the last week or so, um, you can create all these different moods with your
Hmm.
drums. But at the end of the day, it's what I hear most. Even though like there's, and I'm gonna play some of these songs in just a little bit, and we can listen to the different moods that you can create. But I think overall, there's just this sort of happiness that comes from what you play, and I think that's your heart. I think that's you. That's Manu Katche.
I guess so, but I'm not the only one. I mean, I think when a lot of drummers, I mean, the drums, John, you play drums. It's a very joyful instrument because you got like tons of things to hit, like like a
Yeah.
like a kid. And I think even when you reach 60 or 70, you're still 14 years old behind the kid. I want to hit
Yes.
this now. I want to try that. It's very it's joyful, makes sense. It's a
Yes.
thing like it's instinct. Okay, let's do this now. You don't think about it. Of course, you got your technique to do what you want to achieve technically on your instrument, but the overall playing comes from, as you say, your heart and your brain. But it's just the joy of doing things all of a sudden, instantly, that you didn't think a month ago or a month before.
Yeah. Yeah. So just jumping back a moment to the first time you played with Peter, and we'll probably spend a lot of time talking about So because I don't have to tell you the impact that record has made on the entire world. And I mean and I have to say, I don't know if you remember, you were kind enough to invite me in 2012, the 25th anniversary, when you came through Boston. I came to see you,
I
and
remember.
it yeah, I remember leaving the show that night. And I'd always loved that record, but seeing you perform it live, it was this, it was really life changing. It really was. It was this really spiritual, moving time to see you up there, to see the whole band and hear those songs performed live. And my point to that is, um, when you went in to record that record, your first time working with Peter, you had already developed the style that we know, the splashes and all that um,
I,
percussive. Yeah.
Yeah, John, I know where you're going. Yes and no, because I was not feeling that confident.
Mm,
And I'm telling you why. I was, as you said, you mentioned it, I was in France doing sessions, so I was a session player doing what most of the time producers or arranger wanted to hear. So I
mm,
could do it. And then sometimes I could propose something else. But most of the time people want one thing and don't want to change about that. I said, okay. All of a sudden I'm abroad and we got time because in France we're doing like 3 tracks in 3 hours. All of a sudden I'm with Peter and we do a track in 15 days. wow, okay, so we got
Yeah,
time. Yeah, let's spend 3 days on the sound. Really? Are you kidding me? So, so
unbelievable.
it's a different world.
Yeah.
And so you have time to think. And I was not at ease to propose what you define as my style now, because I didn't know much about it. I mean, most of the time people ask me to play, I'm not going to say that, but a little bit like Steve Gadd or Jeff Porcaro, or, I could do that. I mean, like a copy, pale copy.
Mm.
But being myself was not really asked most of the time. And being with Peter and Daniel, because Daniel was producing the album, said, "Yeah, Manu, just go for it. Just give us some stuff." So the story is we starting the track, which is In Your Eyes.
Mm.
And of
Mm.
course, In Your Eyes is a kind of pop African song. And you thinking, because Manu is, from his father's side African, I know this music. No, I didn't play much of that music. And I was in the studio, like, it was a bit difficult for me just to find the right approach of that groove, because there was a loop already, there was a keyboard, there was a demo singing of Peter. And I didn't know much what to do. And all of a sudden, and I think I said that before, Peter comes in the studio in front of me, put the headphones on his head, and so the sound engineer in the control room just to roll the tape. And he starts dancing in front of me. I was sitting behind my kid, like an African guy, like arms
Yeah.
and legs, African ballet. And I
Hmm.
looked at him. I thought, wait a minute, this is an English white guy and start dancing like, it
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense. And at the same time, I thought, I don't know him. It's been like we spent 3 days together, and he's just, in front of me, naked, doing it,
Yeah.
truly. And I thought, oh, that must say something. So I thought, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna let go, which I did. And of course, then that's why producers are very important. And Peter as well. I just played a lot of different things on this track, In Your Eyes. And then they made some choices of what they thought was good for the track. And at that moment, I realized, okay, that's what they like, that what fits the track. Let's develop this. And I think within the years, I developed that style coming from that moment.
I see. Wow. Amazing. And Daniel Lanois, the producer, was really the sort of cheerleader, the person that was really encouraging you to be
Oh yeah,
yourself,
it
to
was
just
amazing. It
yeah.
was amazing. It
That's a
was
great
amazing.
producer. Yeah.
Very, I mean, it was so nice, gentle, simple, smiling, always positive, but just going to find more inside. He has his way. I
Yeah.
can't tell. I'm not a producer, but the way he talk to you, the way he say, "Oh Manu, I like this. Just do that again. Maybe not this bar, just the bar before. Okay, I try. Yeah, now you've get this. Maybe you could add that." Always pushing it, but in a right way, very respectful. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it helped me to understand the position of the drums inside that track, especially.
Yeah. Because I'd like to play a little bit of that song right now, if we can, and I'll
Yeah.
just say ahead of it that um, what you play on that song is just so perfect and spectacular. And all of us drummers listening to it have had the benefit of hearing it now for almost 40 years. So it's it's kind of easy for us drummers to go, oh yeah, I hear what he's doing, but to come up with it, to create that part,
That's
that's
right.
that's the magic right there, man. That is the magic. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, absolutely. Let's give a listen to this.
Okay.
Love, I get so lost resolution of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light and the heat. Oh, I wanna be that complete. I wanna touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes. Love, I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me awake and alive. And all my instincts, they return, and the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, your eyes, your eyes, in your eyes, your eyes, the light, the heat, your eyes, I am complete, your eyes, I see the doorway, the thousand churches, your eyes, the resolution, your eyes, of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light.
Oh man.
It's a nice track. Beautiful
Oh,
voice, huh?
what a beautiful voice. What a beautiful track. I mean, everything, I want to just for a moment just talk about Tony too. Sorry, started to play it again. Um, I want to
Yeah.
talk about Tony's playing. Um, he's talk about a guy that's an incredible session musician in his own right. Of course, he's played on a million records
Mm.
and he's like a chameleon in terms of like the way he can be like you, he will play the perfect part for the song. But he's a different kind of bass player to me, isn't he? He plays
Yeah.
very, especially with Peter, listening to these songs, and it really stood out when I saw you live that night that he's he plays very melodically, obviously, as a bass player, not
E-
yeah, and
Exactly. And I mean, it's very solid. But the thing is, when I joined in '86 to do the Soul album, it was a bit difficult for me to play with him because I was used in sessions to play with the bass player, and drummers understand that when you do boom, 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 you do bass
right.
and drums, bass drum and bass together. When I started doing this recording, I was expecting Tony to be backing up my bass drum, which he was not doing at all. So then I thought, wait a minute. And at the same time, it was very melodic. Bass, not playing guitar. He was playing real bass, bass
Right,
notes, but
right.
in a melodic way. And then that's why it helped as well, because it inspired me to be moving around. Plus, John, you have to know, you heard on that track, there's a talking drum, there's a djembe, there's a drum
Yes,
loop. That was the MPC at the time. So all of this was like an entity of sound and rhythm. And I had to find a way to stick out. So,
yes, yeah,
and still having the pulse as a drummer. So you have to figure out where I can play. The bass player won't back up my kick pedal. The hits is just going to play melodic and be very solid, regular. And then there's a lot of drum machine, the percussion players, African percussion. Where can I play? Where can I be where can I be driving the whole track?
yeah. to me, yeah, that's the real genius of the song is how you navigated to that point to where you found a spot to make your sound to to create that groove because like you say there were all these other elements happening and you were probably I'm guessing there was a click track
Yeah.
to that you were playing to and it and making it feel as human as you
Yeah.
did with
Yeah.
that happening
Yeah,
at the
but
same.
I think the song is well written as well. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
beautiful song. I mean, the
it's
way
beautiful.
it's written, it's just helped.
Of course, yeah, and you're such a humble man, I know. Um, but and when you were playing your part, was there a scratch vocal for you to kind
Yeah,
of see where it was
absolutely.
going? Yeah,
So
okay.
that was the method at the time for so us, I think so on us and up probably. And then it changed the method. It was doing demos, of course, with a a program, music program on the computers. And actually what we were doing when we did like the I.O., the last album, for instance, is we all in the same room playing together. And what he's looking for is the groove coming from the drum. So it's very interesting because he has drum machine going on, like samples, loops, percussion, a lot of stuff. Same thing, similar, but the thing is, we're not recording, we're just looking for ideas and
I see.
searching for the right way of playing that song. And we spent hours playing around. And all of a sudden, when I find the right attitude and the right groove for that song, you see, because I'm looking at him in front of me, you see his smile, and it feels like, oh yeah, that's it. And from that moment, you stick to that groove and develop it.
Right. Okay. So you weren't
He loves grooves. He's really into, he played drums. He played the drums in the
I did
past.
yes, that's right. I did know that. Yes, yeah. That makes sense. And so you weren't necessarily doing takes. You were doing like run throughs, but these were probably pretty fresh, organic takes, I'm guessing that,
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, we were doing like millions of takes from
mm,
A to Z. No punch in, just
yeah,
let do it. And
yeah,
then they were comping it. After I left, after, a few months, they're just like in the studio taking the best parts of it.
yeah, yeah. And in those days, recording on tape, obviously, it was a different process than what.
Yeah.
So,
And we were using the a desk just for the drums, the Neve. So I was recording to that desk, but the sound was just like, very, very, very good. Just the quality, just amazing. And then once we had the right groove from the drums, the right part from A to Z, we were putting it on side and then having a copy for everyone to work on. And finally, when everything is done, we come back to that first generation of drum tech, install it, set it up with the rest, and mix it up.
I see. Yeah. Wow. Great, great backstory to that. And do you remember, did you use was it the same drum kit that you used throughout all the whole
Oh
session?
yeah,
Yeah.
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 The recordings series, the blue
Yeah.
kit that's been on the road for
Yeah.
the tour. Yeah, three toms. I mean, high tom, medium tom. I mean, a high tom, medium. I mean, 10, 12, 13, 16 floor tom. My signature snare kit was the bass drum was 22, and then a few different cymbals. And I have to say that I'm changing the cymbals regularly, except the splash is always there. I'm changing the crashes regularly.
Yeah. Yeah. And in those days, in the 80s, it was before like the A custom. So you were probably using just the regular A's, maybe just the
Yeah,
thin
absolutely.
A's.
And
Yeah.
and some Ks that I
In some
had.
case. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, you always have such a beautiful sound, and everything you've ever recorded is always like that's to me, I think for drummers, that's half of, the what excites people is how great the drums sound,
You're
besides how
right.
great you play.
And that's difficult for drummers, I guess, nowadays more than the time before because I'm not using anything on the drums. Everything is open. I have like,
Mhm.
Remo ambassadors on the top of my toms and snare and diplomat underneath. and I'm not using any tapes, any damp, nothing. Everything is totally open. So which means everything interact with everything else. So you have to pitch every little tone. And I remember I had a great session at the time with Joe Satriani. It was
Mm.
produced by Glyn Jones, and Glyn Jones. That's the first time I met this amazing producer. And he says to the engineer, just put three mics on Manu's kit. I thought, oh, okay, really? So he so he put one mic in the bass drum, inside the bass drum, I mean in front of the bass drum, sorry. One overhead up my snare drum, and
Hmm.
one where I got my ride and my floor tom. That's about it. And he said to the engineer, you're not gonna remix Manu's way of playing. He knows how to play his kit, he knows how to tune is key. That's the sound that I want. So I'm telling the drummers as much as you can, just tune your drums that it makes sense to you, the way you play, you to the music you're going to record, of course, or play live, but it has to make sense. Even my snare, which is a very high pitch, I remember with Sting on all this time, he said, maybe it's a bit too high compared to the tonality that I'm using. I said, okay, I'm going to just go down a bit. It makes sense. It's an instrument.
Yes.
It's just like bashing drum for sound. I mean, just rhythmically, it's a melodic instrument with sounds and tones.
That's a very good point. That's very important for people to understand that you in the studio you do have to make those adjustments that you're used to
Yeah,
playing your snare at that tone at that pitch, but it didn't fit in that particular song. That's
exactly.
yeah, that's another song we'll get to in a minute too, because I
Okay.
I love I love that song. But I'm going to just ask a couple of quick questions from the audience, people that
Okay.
wrote in and asked you a question. This comes from Max Murray, who's in Melbourne, Australia.
Okay.
Um, and I'm hoping you can ask Manu the following question. Um, his Drumming on So album is some of the funkiest and grooviest of all time. Um, and we've actually just talked about this. So I just realized we've just talked about In Your Eyes. So Max, we've answered your question. He asked how you came up with the part and the drums that you used on the track, especially
Yes.
the snare drum. So
Sorry, Max.
yeah, that's okay though, because we can move on to another question.
Okay.
Um, and Peter von Althen has asked, I would love to know what records inspire you or have
Ah,
inspired you.
okay. So that's a good question. It's
Yeah.
Paul, John Paul. What's his name?
His name is Peter von Althen.
Peter Van. He's from what, Holland
He's
somewhere?
actually he's from I believe he's from Canada, but
Oh,
it sounds
Canada.
like a Dutch name. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So, I mean, actually, when I was a kid, as I said, I was listening to a lot of classical music and Eric Satie a lot and Ravel, which I loved. And of course, Bach and Beethoven, you had to when you at the school of music, classical school of music. But then my stepfather was into jazz, so which means I discovered Oscar Peterson,
Mm.
Duke Ellington, and of all the giant Coltrane, Miles Davis, of course, Charlie Parker. And I listened to that, but I was not, when I'm, don't get me wrong, when I said not inspired, I mean, I love to listen to that music nonstop, but I didn't play that music. I'm not a swing player, like jazz. I can't do that. But I was listening to it regularly because it made me in a good mood.
Mhm.
But then the music I was listening and I was really not trying to copy, but playing my basement with my drums and the headphones on was Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Donny
Yeah.
Hathaway,
Oh man.
Otis, just all those guys. None, George Benson, Herbie, nonstop. I was
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to play along, it was tough. But that, that's where it's coming from. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. Yeah. You can hear it. You can hear that sort of Motown,
Yeah, big time
funky.
Motown. Love
Yeah.
it.
It's yeah.
The
It's
way I do it, I'm not a modern drummer, but I mean I was really inspired by that feel, the whole feel on the drums. I'm not trying to copy it, just the whole feel. It's part of you. Then it's get to an attitude. So you're gonna
yeah.
groove like for like hours, but you have to do it right, and it takes a long time to do it right. An amazing drummers for that is Steve Jordan when he
Yes.
grooves, it goes into a groove. It's like, hell? And you just you have to get up and start,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I
I
love
do
that.
exactly.
I
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, he's got this. I know his groove is just so mm,
But is in the
yeah,
pocket, as you said. And
yeah.
the very hard thing with Peter is the structures of the music is not regular. I mean, you don't have like a verse of 8 bars, or you don't have a chorus of 8 bars. Sometimes the verse is 6 bars, then the chorus is 7 bars. So, okay, so you have to figure out how come I'm going to bring the chorus in. I'm going to do a fill, or maybe I'm going to do it before. Then I'd only have 7 bars for a chorus which is not even. So you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? How are you
Yes,
going to
yeah.
make that groove? I mean, you have to make it groove in a way, but then the numbers of bars that don't allow you, then you have a breakdown, then you have a middle eight. I mean, if you listen to Peter's music, it's complex
It's
in the
complex, yeah.
structure. So
Yes.
it was difficult for me. I mean, that's important that I said that, because when I started, I mean, I was not at ease at all with that form.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Yep.
don't get it. I didn't get it. And then it took me a little bit of time, took me a while. But once you're there, when you know his way of writing, his way of putting bars together, there you go. And then you can announce things in different ways, and it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah. Once you kind of understood, um, yeah, you probably, I'm guessing, got to a point or are at a point where you know where a lot of these things are going to go. Like you from working together this long that you understand it's a different way of, like you say, composing a song, but
If I
you,
compare, Peter to Sting, it's very different.
yes, very,
Very
yeah,
different. I'm not saying one is simpler than the other. It's just like a different way of writing. So let's
yeah,
say like Peter structures of each of his songs is just like quite complex.
yeah. I'm going to play a song, a little bit of a left turn. This
Okay.
is Robbie Robertson's "Showdown at Big Sky," and this to me, it's a when we were talking at the very beginning when I was saying how you can create this different kind of mood, and I think this song really. I remember hearing this when it first came out, and I realized it was you, and I'd really just discovered you at the time in the '80s
Okay.
from playing with Peter, and I thought this was really cool because it was a different dimension to what I'd heard you play with Peter. Um,
Okay.
and I'll just set it up because the song has such an eerie sort of feel to it anyway. And I think you create that mood. So here it comes. Showdown at Big Sky, Robbie Robertson.
Soldier of fortune, he's a man of war. Just can't remember what he's fighting for. Start a revolution right before your eyes. When you hear the big bang, don't you be surprised. Slow down a big sky, darkness everywhere. Slow down a big sky, that day may be soon. And people, can you hear the sound from every village and every town? They ring on the bell, ringing the bells. Everybody can't predict the future, can't forget the past. Feel like any moment could be the last. All you believers stand inside this room. Can't you see it coming? Shooting out across the moon. In the valley of tears, by the river of time, in the book of David, in the holy night. by the children of Eden and the Holy Ghost. In the valley of tears, by the river of time, in the book of David, in the holy night, it will be written by the children of Eden and the Holy Ghost and the Holy Ghost. Slow down the big sky, darkness
It's a cool track.
Oh man, what another, yeah,
I
great track.
forgot. I forgot.
Yeah, and I let me I referred to it as being sort of eerie. That's maybe not the right word. It's an intense feeling song to me, and I think so much of the feeling of that song comes from what you're playing. The linear hi-hat part there, and
Yeah.
it just
Eh,
drives the tune.
It's the drive. I mean, once again, we spoke about this. That's the drive, that's the pulse. And funny enough, it's the same bass player at the Soul album and same producer, Daniel.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Funny. That's a funny thing. So you hear us, in a different thing, and it sounds very different at the time, just for a different artist. That's in the that's once again the songs. I mean, just the song is there, and it helps you. It shows you which way to go. Let's say. I'm not spiritual. I'm just saying that if you listen to the song and the demo, whatever, you know where you can go, and you know where you cannot go.
yeah, yeah. So
So I got inspired. I remember when I did that track, I was in Los Angeles at the Village Recorder. And same thing, we had a lot of time to work around tracks. And this, I remember Danielle at the time said, Manu, you're driving, you're the boss, you're driving. So
yeah,
having that in mind, you just, even if you don't play too many notes, too many rhythm, you just try to have that pulse constant, constant, which makes it like tense in a way. But at the same
yes,
time, the playing using tones and everything makes it lighter.
right, right. Yeah,
I,
makes
I don't know
sense.
if it does make sense, but
Yeah, no, it does, and that's good to know that Daniel said that to you, that you're because that's how I look at it too. Is you're driving the tune, you're driving, and
that's
when
right.
you heard the demo, um,
Yeah.
did you immediately in your mind think like the 16th note hi-hat part like that?
Don't think so. No,
No,
it comes where we all play together. I have some ideas. I mean, when I listen to a demo, I just try to figure out verses, choruses, middle eight, breakdown, vamp out, just
yeah,
to have an overview of how I'm going to keep it going to push it to the end. Just to build it from the beginning to the end. That's my overview. Always, any kind of song, any kind of music, I always try to think, okay, I'm going to start this way using this and then, slowly building it up to the end. That's the thing. But I didn't know I was going to use the 16th on a hi-hat. It just came out
yeah, it's perfect.
get,
Yeah,
getting in. I don't know. It's just getting inspired. But a good story, John, about Robbie, and I hope he rests in peace. But
yeah,
he was just a great man. A lot of fun with him, and with him, I met Scorsese. Because we did that video clip. It was just
yes,
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing. Anyway, I'm in the studio. Robbie is upstairs writing some lyrics in his office. And we're in the studio just waiting for him to come down. And I'm just, I don't know what to do with myself. So I just go to my drum kit and I just start playing, as we all do, for just play. You just play. And I found a nice groove. And then all of a sudden I see Tony coming in the studio, taking the bass and playing with me, jamming with me. great. So we just have a little jam, while we're not doing anything. And I look in the control room and I see Daniel watching me and doing, with his thumb, I mean, his fingers just like round, like, let's keep on doing it, guys. So I knew he was recording it on a DAT. But listen to that, John. So, of course, we keep on going, on the other track that we're supposed to record. And then the next day said, oh, I got a new song. It's called Somewhere Down the Crazy River.
Right.
Okay. And he said, Manu, that's the groove, but that's your groove. And actually, that song came up because of that groove.
Wow. Just just when you were just fooling around,
Yes,
just yeah, just
that it
wow.
created Somewhere Down the Crazy River. But then, John, the amazing story, and I said that for drummers, because then they're gonna think, oh yeah, Manu, so you had a part, economically, and no, I didn't got anything. That's me. I mean, we drummers, that's what we do. That's our job. You just
Yeah.
provide things. But then years later, I got a phone call from Manfred Eicher. Manfred Eicher is the head of ECM Records in Munich. Keith Jarrett, Jan
Yes. Of
Garbarek.
course.
And
Yeah.
I got a phone call from him. He said, Manu Katche, yeah, I'd like to meet you in Paris with Jan Garbarek. I said, of course, yeah, no problem. So we see each other in Paris in a, in a restaurant. We talk. I'd like you to play on the next Jan Garbarek. And I said, okay, I'd love to. Of course, I knew the ECM,
Mm.
label. And then for the story, Manfred, after we've been in the studio together for a while, he said, Manu, I was in my car at night in Munich and I hear a track on the radio. So I just pull over, wait for the journalist to tell who is singing. He didn't know. And the record was Robbie Robertson. So the next day he goes to kind of Tower Records, buys the record, and look in the credits for Somewhere Down the Crazy River, and he sees my name. You get it?
Wow.
That's the
How
whole
about
story. And that's
that's a
true.
yeah, man. So things that yeah, I mean, what a great story. Yeah.
That's it. So,
You were paid back that way. Yeah.
exactly. That's
Yeah.
great.
Oh man. You couldn't ask for a better, you know,
That's
endorsement or
it.
recommendation.
It's great. So
That's
whoever is listening to the podcast, drummers, don't do it. Just do it for the
yeah,
pleasure of it. And if it's done the right way, you're gonna have something coming later. You don't know, but it's great.
that's right. It'll come back. I'm going to read a question. It's a little bit long, so I'm going to try to condense it a
Okay.
little bit. And this
Okay.
is from a man named Scott Moyer, who's out in Los Angeles. And just a little background on Scott. He was working for SIR,
Yeah.
uh, which I know you've I'm sure been familiar with over the years. This was back in the 70s. He worked for SIR. At the time, Steve Gadd recorded Asia at the uh, producer's workshop, I guess, was the studio in LA where they recorded Asia. And he delivered the drum set to Steve that he recorded that
Okay.
incredible track with. So that's a little bit of background with Scott. And he's a guy that watches and listens to my podcast all the time. So he sent this question. And Scott, thanks for sending this. We've talked about your early studies, and he's curious to know about your approach to song production and your tuning choices and preferred cymbals and drums for recording, uh, as well as work. Well, we talked about bass players too, but I guess the part that I'll pull out of this is maybe talk a little bit about your drum tuning, kind of how you approach that for different
Okay.
recordings.
So I couldn't tell Scott, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell the right notes on each element. But don't forget, I've been on timpani players, which means in my ear, I hear something regular and always similar. So when I tune my drums, the first thing I go is the snare. Just
Okay.
I need that high pitch. Of course, if you listen to it carefully, I'm sure you're gonna find the right note. And then from that, I go to the kick drum to have a real, like infra bass that I want to have. And from that, I just do a high tone, medium tone, and floor tone, always the same notes. I've noticed that each time I'm doing it, I'm just doing, like few,
Hmm.
key turns, and it's always the same notes. Always, always,
Yeah,
always. So I think I refer to my, background of being a classical player, which on the timpanis, you change notes all the time, but you have some notes that you're familiar with and you feel comfortable. And I guess on the drums, that's what happened.
I see. That makes sense. So, in other words, you start with the highest note being the snare
Yeah,
drum, and then the
yeah.
lowest fundamental being the bass drum, and then kind of build the
In
tom sound
between the
in between.
toms.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the cymbals are just my choice of cymbals. Hi-hat is always the same, 13-inch new beat hi-hat.
Hmm.
Always, always, always. But the cymbals ride or crashes or splashes, different sizes, different tones, in referring to the music I'm going to work to, which means like when we start playing the drums and play along the track, for the first time in the studio, I'm doing things, and then I'm won't tune my drums again, but I'm going to change the cymbals most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And as we all know, that will change your sound dramatically. Just changing the cymbals gives you an entirely different voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
if I, for instance, the track doesn't need too many toms, I'm going to get rid of them. I mean, physically, I'm going to take them out. I don't
Yeah.
want to have
Yeah.
them in, you know what I'm saying? And then to be forced to play just like kick, snare, and floor tom, for instance. But I don't want to have those two other toms. Otherwise, I'm going to go without thinking and play them, and I don't want to.
Yeah. That's great. And I'm sensitive to the time here, and I don't want to keep
Okay.
you here because
It's okay.
I
It's
could
fine.
keep you here.
Enjoy.
Oh, good, good. Thank you for being so generous. I want to play another song right now that is a favorite of mine. And we talked about this just a few minutes ago when you were talking about Sting all this time.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and this song, man, again, I'll just say that when I first time I heard this, I don't think I knew it was you right away. I wasn't sure who it was, but I just remember thinking, this is the coolest shit. This is the coolest beat. This the
I
double.
know those. I
You,
know. I know. I know the one.
you know
And
what
I
I'm
and
talking
I have
about.
the story afterwards. I'm going to tell
Okay,
you.
great. I have to hear the story because all the years I've known you, I've never asked you this story, but I know
Okay.
people. Okay, here it comes. And this is from Soul Cage's All This Time, Sting, the great Manu Katche.
I looked out across the river today, saw a city in the fog and an old church tower where the seagulls play.
gives a push.
Yes.
It gives that push. So I didn't come up with that two hits at the beginning of the recording. It's just like you heard at the when you reach the bridge, it goes like rhythm and blues, like the old Motown way.
Yes.
And of course, hitting all the hits, all the four, four on the
The double
snare.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Sting is going to, like kind of a link, bass link, like used, a classic one. So I thought, oh, I like that, but I can't go the whole song this way. You know what I'm
I
saying?
see. Yeah.
Like
Okay.
four hits on the snare, it's too much,
Yeah.
especially with the way he sings, with the melody, it's going to be too full. So I thought, how am I going to do without not disturbing it, but having the feeling of this, the, the like the color of it without playing it totally. And that's how I came up with this, those funny two hits once in a while. But the very funny thing is Sting loved that. And then I think after that, I don't know if we were on tour, but I think I see him like a couple of years later, and he says to me, I was doing an album with Vinny, and I sampled this. I said, what do you mean you sampled? He said, yeah, I sampled your two hits, and I placed it in Vinny's playing. And
Oh,
Vinny didn't like that, of course.
oh
But
no.
but I said, Sting. I mean, Vinny could do that so easily. He said, yeah, but I love the way it's done, and I wanted to have that. It's funny, huh?
It's funny. Yeah. But I understand what he's saying. He liked the way it sits in that mix, like the way it just sits there
And
is
it gives a little push. It's not too
yeah.
much in the way. It's quite different. You're not expecting it. And just I heard pushes, like, and instead of doing a
Yeah.
symbol, which is in the way of his singing, you kind of disturbing. I didn't want, just can, because I hit a little bit louder and but not too much. And I think when you listen to the track as we just did, it gives that push and it gives you the idea of four on,
Yes.
snare on four beats, each beat.
It
So without playing it, of course.
it's exactly. I made a note, in fact, in my notes, um, pushes the feel. And
Yep.
the part especially where you get into the double time, like the Motown sort of
Yeah.
that bridge section, um, it really what I always loved about I'd hear it on the radio driving in my car, and it gives you that illusion that it's not speeding up, but it's
Yeah.
pushing forward. And
It's
then when you
pushing for, yeah.
yeah, and then when you pull it back, then when you go back
Oh,
to just the regular straight and just the occasional double hit, it just kind of
exactly.
reels it back in. It's so
And,
beautiful.
and and I think you still are in the style of that Motown thing with that second push, once in a while. I
Yeah.
think that's what I thought at the time. Maybe, but that's it.
And just listening to all these different songs, listening to, Tony Levin, who we talked about as one of the absolute greatest bass players ever, with all the work you've done with him with Peter Gabriel. And then you listen to Sting, who I think doesn't get enough credit as a bass player, because
Yeah, you're right.
yeah, he's such a great singer, songwriter, but I love his playing, the
Me too.
simplicity of that song.
Me
Yeah.
too. The funny thing with Sting is when we were on tour, he's always pushing a bit because, of course, singing and playing an instrument like bass,
Mm,
like Paul McCartney, is so difficult. It's very, very difficult. And of course, he's telling a story while he's playing bass, and
right.
he can't be like a bass player, like stuck with the drummer and doing the rhythm section. So sometimes he's pushing ahead. Okay. And sometimes we had loops and clicks on stage. And he was looking at me after a few gigs on a brand new day tour. I said, Manu, there's one thing I don't got. Is you giving me this intention of pushing forward with me, but you're still with the loop. How do you do that? So I said, actually, I'm not having you in my wedge, in my monitor. I'm playing with your bass from the PA. And with that little delay, it allows me to still be with the loops and the click. But knowing you pushing it, I have to say my kick, when I hit the kick, I hit it a bit ahead, but the snare is just behind.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. And I've
Yeah.
not, I mean, I've done that on purpose, really. I've just discovered that it worked because he had that thing is, because the way he moves on stage. I know him from watching his back. I know he feels comfortable. So I'm pushing it with the kick. But because of the bass comes from a little delay from the PA, and I still have to play with the loops or the click, the snare is right at the right place.
Yeah.
Sorry, So it was okay, interesting.
That takes a lot of, you've really got to be on your game to be able to figure
Yeah,
all that out, man.
you
Yeah.
have to, you have to,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
mean, he's telling a story. He has to feel comfortable, and
Yeah.
if you pushing with him, like ahead, I won't be. It's going to be hard for him, and then everyone's going to be pushing with you because you're the drummer, you're in charge, or everyone is going to be with you, and it's going to be mumbo jumbo. No, you have to keep the whole band together and try to give the intention of yes, thing. I'm with you, I'm pushing with you, but don't worry, the whole thing is safe behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, a couple of more songs I want to get to. I want to play this song, and this is recorded, I think maybe about a year after you recorded Soul Cages with Sting. This is Heavy Fuel by Dire Straits.
Oh yeah.
And what a man, what a great song. You and I talked about this not long ago, and I knew
Yeah,
that
it
both
was
you and
tough.
Jeff, yeah, had recorded on this record, and it was
Yeah.
I think one of Jeff's,
Yeah.
well, maybe not one, yeah, one of his last recordings. And
Yeah, I think so. And that was his idea to share this album. He
yes,
proposed it.
yeah, wow. And now, did I read somewhere that there was that Jeff had recorded this song with
Okay,
Mark
so
with
yeah,
Dire?
so that's the story. I mean, Mark was not that nice to me during the sessions. He's a bit bipolar. Bit,
Yeah,
that's the correct name.
yeah, yeah,
Some days he's great, and sometimes he's kind of dark. And it was in his dark days. And then we finished the other track, which is uh, Calling Elvis, or I can't remember which track we've done. Anyway, he comes to me and said, "Oh, I've recorded that track, Heavy Fuel, with Steph." I said, "Yeah, great, but I had some technical problem and I want to redo it." And he wants me to listen to it. I said, "Mark, I'm fine. Okay, I don't. No, no, no. You have to listen to it. It sounded perfect. I'm
mm,
telling you,
yeah,
John, it sounded perfect." I said, "Mark, I mean, what's the problem with that track? I mean, Jeff just is phenomenal as usual." I said,
of
"I want to
course, yeah,
record it again." And I'm on my way to the drum kit. The whole band is in the control room waiting, and I'm just playing the drums straight, and it's a long track. It's a very
yeah,
long track. And I'm sitting behind the drums and I think this guy, Mark Knopfler, is not that nice with me. He's kind of dark and I'm tired of that. I'm tired. I want to go. I'm not feeling comfortable. I'm not doing music just not to feel comfortable. So I'm gonna try once, one go, one take, but I'm just gonna go for it crazy. I don't care. I don't care
okay,
anymore. You know? And I couldn't play anyway like Jeff. I can't play with Jeff. No one can play with Jeff. So I just doing my thing. So he plays the track and I just go. And Niels Dorfsman was on the engineer, and I worked with him for Nothing Like the Sun with him at the time with Sting. So I knew him. So he sends the track. I start playing and I go crazy. I just, you know, go for it.
yeah,
And I watch the control room and I see Mark jumping around and then pushing the talk back. I love that, Manu. A different guy.
different
All
guy,
of a sudden,
man,
great, smiling, beautiful. So I thought, fuck, I'm gonna redo it again because it's a long track. I think it's almost 7 minutes. So I came back, I mean, we did it a few times, the whole take. And then I go to the control room and Mark says, "Man, it's great. I love it. Are you going on tour? I mean, you playing live and you got a family, a different man." So that's the
yeah.
whole story about the Heavy Fuel.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for that. Again, Manu, it's like you're reading my mind because I made a note talking about that song, knowing that it's you, and it sounds very different from the way we hear you play often because it's very you're really going for it. That's the best way, like you said, to describe it. You're just
That's right.
and it's
But
great to hear you playing that way too. It's great to hear you really just going for it. And I wondered if he if he said to you, I just want you to
no, I
just go.
was fed up. I was fed up. I had enough. I wanted to go home. I had enough. I'm telling you, that's the truth. I mean, that's the truth. That's why I play that way. I just like, I say, okay, I do that. And if you don't like it, I'm going. It's okay.
Yeah. Do you remember, can you, I just wonder, do you remember, can you, can you, I just wonder, 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 can you, can you, I what you played, was it different from what Jeff Porcaro
Yeah,
played
yeah,
in the sense that you
yeah,
were playing more? Maybe is
yeah.
that why?
Oh, yeah,
What it
yeah,
was?
definitely. Yeah. You know, I
Yeah,
was Jeff was playing,
yeah,
kick, snare, and hi-hat.
yeah,
Not much toms. I mean, very amazing. So I couldn't play like him, and I was not going to anyway.
yeah, yep. Well, you gave him what he wanted. Well, let's play some of that, man. Heavy
Okay.
Fuel, Dire Straits.
Last time I was sober, man, I felt bad. Worst hangover that I ever had. It took 6 hamburgers and scotch all night. Nicotine for breakfast just to put me right. 'Cause if you wanna run cool, if you wanna run cool, if you wanna run cool, you got to run on heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. My life makes perfect sense. Lust and food and violence. Sex and money are my major kicks. Get me in a fight, I like a dirty tricks. 'Cause if you wanna run cool, if you wanna run cool, yes, if you wanna run cool, you got to run on heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. My chick loves a man who's strong. The things she'll do to turn me on. I love the babes, don't get me wrong. Hey, that's why I wrote this song. I don't care if my liver is hanging by a thread. Don't care if my doctor says I ought to be dead. When my ugly big car wanna climb this hill, I'll write a suicide note on $100 bill. 'Cause if you wanna run cool, if you wanna run cool, yes, if you wanna run cool, you got to run on heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel. Heavy, heavy fuel.
Man, what a song.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, maybe people won't understand when I say this. I went for it. The whole track, Mark, when I listened to the one done by Jeff, was pretty straight ahead. It's no feels.
Mm,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
see.
It's
Yeah,
like maybe two feels in the whole song. And if you listen to that, there's a lot of feels. That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
When I went for it, I said, okay, I'm doing good a feel here, I'm going to do a feel there. But at the time when I listened to the original track with Jeff, there's no feels at all, maybe one or two.
yeah, yeah.
Just
He,
for people to understand, the difference.
the difference. Yeah. I can't imagine that song any other way than how we just heard it. It's just, and it really, your drumming is so heavy in it. That's, heavy
That's not
fuel.
me.
It's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, different from what I was used to do at the time. It's true.
yeah, yeah. And those little triplets at the end there that you're
Yeah,
doing, it
yeah.
just, yeah, it's so fun to listen to. But we have to
Thanks.
we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon. But I have to play,
Okay.
of course, a
Mm.
solo a song from your solo record.
Yeah.
Um, and what we're going to play, in fact, is uh, Vice from your solo record from 2019, The Scope.
Hmm.
And before we play this, Manu, I just do want to ask you because I had made a note. Do you remember the snare drum that you used on Heavy Fuel? Was it your Yamaha signature snare?
Yes, it was.
It was. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
What?
always the same snare. So it maybe sometimes it's a 5.5, maybe sometimes it's 6.5, but it's always my signature snare. I'm not using any kind of other snares for many years now.
Yeah. Beautiful. What a great sound.
It's a kind of great sound. I wanted to tell you a thing with the Vice, the track you're gonna play. Uh, so that guy is Senegalese, that I met in Senegal, but the whole
Yes.
song is made like at the end of it, it was just how you say in English, blinking of an eye to the police band.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Yes.
to Stuart Copeland.
Yes.
So
Yep.
that's the whole thing about that track.
Great. Okay. Yes. And I know what you're referring to. I know exactly what
I
you're
know you
referring to.
do. I know you do.
Yeah. So everybody check this out. This is from Manu's most recent solo record, correct? This was 2019. Have you done a more recent solo recording than
No,
this?
I just wrote music for the next album because in 19 then we got hit by the COVID. So
Yes.
I just didn't do much. And then I did a lot of concerts and now I'm ready. I've just wrote a lot of music and I think I'm going to be ready to record like beginning of next year and it should be released next year.
Fantastic. That's great. All right. I can't wait to hear that. Well, this is
Thanks.
this is this is a great track. It's called Vice. It's from The Scope
Yep.
and Manu Katche. Here we go.
Yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. We're all the same. Yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. We're all the same. Yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. Feed your passion with crazy big dreams and determination. Don't let nobody come and get in your way and say you can't make it. Cause no one detains the secret of perfection. No, no. The battle might be long and exhausting. Long and exhausting. Obstacles all along this journey. Along this journey. Your worst enemies are your fears. And the voices in your head telling you to back down. Yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. We're all the same. Yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. We're all the same. Everybody is a masterpiece in the puzzle. Just be good at what you're doing. When you do it, just do it right. The heart of the universe beats inside each one of us. We, the sky and the earth, we all the same. We cry, we laugh, we die. We eat, we bleed, we dance. The sample of your blood is the same as mine. It's red. Yes, we can make it. We are the power of a million voices calling.
Yes, we can. No matter who you blame,
No matter.
we won't wait for the pain. We'll always say,
Say
yes, we can. No matter who you blame, we won't wait for the pain. We'll always say,
yes, we can.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Young son, yes, we can. When they go, young son, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Young son, yes, we can. Nothing is impossible. Young son, yes, we can. We the sky.
Man.
Funny, a funny one.
Yeah, fantastic song.
And
Man.
live is great because we go crazy, for a while.
I'll bet. Yeah. You've been so generous with your time. I'm going to just play one more song because we'd be remiss if we didn't play this last song that I think you've become sort of synonymous with. I think this song, at least
Okay.
in my mind, I think you
Okay.
probably know what I'm going to play.
No.
Or it's another song by Peter from So,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's a pretty big song.
Yeah. Yes, it
So
is.
it is. But I want to thank you, and we'll say goodbye after we're
John,
done
thank you
with the
so
song.
much for having me. Yeah, thank you. I had a great time.
Oh, thank you, Manu. Thank you for being here. I want to tell everybody watching, thank you for watching first of all, and big
Yeah.
hand for the legendary Manu Katche. And we've been trying to do this for a while, and you've been so busy. And I apologize because I would go a week or two without getting back in touch, and then you'd say, "Oh, I'm out on tour with Peter. I'm out on tour doing this," and so I thank you.
But finally, we've done it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
We've
cool.
done it.
That's cool.
Great. All right. Hang with me for 1 second. All right. Gonna play this one last track that I think everybody's gonna recognize. Pretty sure they will.
You sledgehammer. Why don't you call my name? You better call the sledgehammer. Put your mind at rest. I'm gonna be the sledgehammer. This can be my testimony. I'm your sledgehammer. Let there be no doubt about it. Sledge, sledge,
I'm picturing thousands of drummers around the world just bouncing up and down in their seats right now.
That's cool. It's a great track. Shuffle.
Yeah,
Simple.
yeah,
Very simple.
yeah. You know, and I never really thought of it until I really listened to that. It's a shuffle.
It is.
Yeah.
And very simple. It's nothing, crazy.
Well, it's your feel, it's your accents, it's your taste, your creativity. It's all those things that make you so special and make that song so special.
Yeah, thanks. It's a
Uh,
great song. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manu. I know it's getting late there, and I just
Okay.
want to tell you, I thank you. And you're a treasure. You're just a treasure. You're a gift to all of us drummers. That you're the music you've given us, and you'll continue to give us. It's just for me, it just
Thank-
keeps me going. Thank you.
I'm very touched. Thank you from you, John. It's a very nice compliment, and I hope drummers listening and watching are happy with what we try to talk about. We don't have all the response, the answers, but some of it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and what I could say, what I'm saying most of the time is just try to be yourself. Sometimes people are gonna say, nah, you're right, because you know inside, it's inside you.
yeah. That's great advice, man. That's all you can do,
That's
and
it.
it's perfect advice.
Don't try
Yeah,
to be someone else. That's what we are,
yeah.
You're John, I'm Manu, and etc. Yeah, that's it.
I wish I was Manu.
No, different. No, no.
Yeah,
That's
no, it's
cool.
yeah. Thank you so much, man. It's been
Thank you
such
very much.
a pleasure and an honor. Please stay with me for one moment. I'll end the stream. I'll thank everybody for watching. Thank you all. Thanks for tuning in. Before I say goodbye, I just want to remind you that this Friday, the 8th of November, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be live with Danny Seraphin of Chicago. So tune in for that. And yeah, and a big hand for Manu Katche one more time. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, all podcasts are available on all the podcast platforms. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and a reminder that Live from My Drum Room t-shirts are available for $25 in the contiguous US, and I'm going to give you the Venmo information so that you can purchase one. And I want to take a moment and thank everyone who's bought one already. A reminder that 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship at the Percussive Arts Society, PAS, and you're supporting a great cause when you buy one of these shirts. So the Venmo information, if you're listening and not watching this on YouTube, it's at John-DChristopher-2. You can also email me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com with any questions. All right, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. I'll see you again real soon.